Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Well, we've been doing this over 7.5 years, and every week we have a business show where either A, we have somebody that can teach you something about business, either Facebook or economic development or anything else. They try to teach you something, or sometimes we'll have somebody that had started a company and they've started the business and they're going to show you how they went from A to Z and made it really, really successful. So you can learn a valuable lesson about business. That's what our show is all about every week. Business. Now, the name of the show is called Ask Brien. I normally have a co-host of Tracy, but she's out, and we are excited to have Mr. Alex Grossman as our co-host. Alex, you there?
I am here as always.
All right. Well, as always, that's an interesting concept. Anyway, I'm not going to hit you on that just because I'm an attorney. But, people are asking us, my name is Peter. The show is called Brien, and Brien is spelled Brien, and nobody can, for the life of them, understand why it's spelled with an E. Either A, you don't know how to spell, or B, your parents are from Ireland, and it was O'Brien, and they took out the O with the apostrophe or something. But because everybody is spelled Bryin or Brin with an I or a Y, but no one with an E. And so we've been told, little birdie said, chirp, chirp, chirp. They said that you know why Brien is spelled with an E. So give us some reasons why Brien is spelled with an E.
Maybe not. Maybe well, it's because of your accent.
You must sound like a new high school graduate spelling insanity with an I and an E. All right, so now...
Well...
Hold on, I'm going to have to interrupt because the with an E is for our engineer.
Ooh.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Alex.
Well, I was going to say, if you really want to talk about the enthusiasm that we have and the energy that you portray.
And what about how excited I am?
You are. You're excited about economic development today. That's what I understand.
Exactly. And I certainly, by the way, I screamed it on the mic, I certainly don't have anything called, what's that E? Ends in a Y?
Empathy? No.
Oh, my God. You have a buzz? Ding, 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 ding.
Well, how about tact? I know that doesn't start with an E, but we'll throw tact
what
in
is
there.
Tact? Is it like tic-tac-toe?
And you call yourself an expert.
Mm-hmm.
How can you do that?
And what is an expert, Alex?
Well, I don't know. It's probably someone who's been an entrepreneur for 10 years, maybe working 40 hours a week, maybe.
Well,
possibly.
So our definition on our show is we expect somebody to have worked 10,000 hours. So how do we calculate that out? Well, there are 50 weeks in the year, 40-hour weeks, okay? And that's 2,000 times 5 years, and that's how we get to 10,000. But we all know that no entrepreneur that we're aware of, that's especially at a startup company, I mean, like yourself, you're not working 8 hours a day, are you? No, everybody's working 12, 15 hours a day if they're lucky when they start a business. So typically it will take less than 5 years, but if you have that background, you typically are what we qualify as an expert. What other reasons why we have an E, Alex? Do you know?
I have absolutely no idea why you would do an E, Mr. O'Brien.
Well, we are trying to educate people, right? We're trying to educate.
You are.
That's a really big one. And most of our people have experience, right? So we've got some of those things. But obviously, I'm not going to try to harp on this too much. I know that we're working on elections from S and T's and whatever, X's, whatever. So, we're without any further ado, A-D-I-E-U, love that word, Y, one consonant. Everything else is a vowel. All right, here we are. By the way, I do have to say this because I did find this on Facebook and I was like in shock. But somebody says, if you save a penny a day for 1 year, you have $36,500. I don't know what kind of math they're doing, but they really need to go back to school.
Wow.
Recent high school graduate, possibly Harvard, maybe college graduate.
Hey, 4 times 2 is 27. We all know that. All right, so
12, I've been told.
Yeah, or 13. Yeah. Very good when they have to give a change out at that store. All right, so without any further ado, we do have Mr. Drew, mercy, and he's saying, mercy, mercy, please, help, help, help. All right, so how you doing, man?
Doing great. That intro put me right at ease.
Another E.
Ooh, love it.
Sounds good, Drew.
All right, so people want to know, Drew. First, let's go about your background, then what you're currently working on. But so, give the people a little bit about your background. And I don't need to know from when you were 4 years old and you were, playing in the sandpit. But let's quickly go at least from high school on.
Sure. So I graduated local schools in the Antelope Valley, Quartz Hill High School, attended Antelope Valley College before going to UC Davis. Spent most of my career in public policy, working for state legislators and office holders. Senator George Runner, who covered this area for a long time, Senator Scott Wilk as well. And part of that time was at the State Board of Equalization when they oversaw a lot of the business taxes, sales and use tax. So we'd work directly with businesses who were having questions or challenges with the state tax agency. And 2.5 years ago, left and joined Antelope Valley Edge, which is the Antelope Valley Economic Development and Growth Enterprise.
Another E.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are similar for your listeners that here in Santa Clarita that are familiar with the Santa Clarita Valley Economic Development Corporation. We are also a regional economic development organization. We cover Lancaster, Palmdale, and LA County, as well as Southeast Kern, Roseman, Mojave, Tehachapi, Boron, Cal City, on up to Ridgecrest and Edwards Air Force Base. And our goal is bring jobs to the area so people can work locally and get off the 14 freeway.
That sounds like a great concept. Do have a couple of questions before we get into the economic development department. So you mentioned the word public policy. I mean, coming from a non-elected official here, public policy sounds like, it's politics. What exactly is public policy?
Well, a mix of both. Policy being the actual, law and regulation and dealing with that. Again, when I was with the Board of Equalization as an advisor for George Runner, we were directly doing outreach to businesses to help them, which I know can sound facetious coming from a government agency, but we were truly in the business of constituent services, and most of those that were dealing with the Board of Equalization was on sales and use tax at that time, and which is a complicated, convoluted law, based on the politics of the legislature, what's taxable, what isn't, and for those businesses in retail or food service, it can be incredibly difficult and challenging navigating California's rules on those.
Let's just take a little piece on that because that isn't something that a lot of people are not aware of. Now, everybody knows sales tax, right? You buy a car for $10,000, you get a bill from the state of California for $1,000. Thank you for living in our state and being congested. All right, so now, okay, that's one part of it. But you did bring up something else, and that's a lot of people, even business owners, are not really aware. What exactly is a use tax? A lot of people don't know that. I have an accounting degree, and I'm a lawyer, so I got the background. But many people say use tax. What is that?
Well, yes, and it often feels like a gotcha tax. Use tax.
Well, all taxes are gotchas, but go ahead.
But in particular, so a use tax is equivalent to the sales tax, and it's on anything that you purchased out of state, but you use in California. So one of the areas where a lot of people could get into trouble with
Amazon.
The state, well, Amazon was a big one for a long time, because they didn't have a. If you're a retailer and you have a physical presence in the state, then you're obligated to collect sales tax. But if you're not present in the state, if you're just shipping into the state, you're not obligated to collect the sales tax for the state. So before Amazon had the distribution centers, that was the big question mark and issue the state was dealing with. But where a lot of individuals, just average citizens, can have an issue with use tax is, say they're out of state, they're looking at some cars, some that have,
Rolex watches. I know you got 4 on your hand, but go ahead.
Anything like that. I mean, you're on a trip and, hey, duty free, I can buy it, take it back with me. Well, if it's declared on a customs form, or if it's a vehicle that you bring in and then take to the DMV to register, the state will send you a bill for the equivalent sales tax. And folks in auto sales out of state may not realize that that's the case in California. They say, oh yeah, we don't have sales tax in this state. But as soon as they take it to register, the state's sending them a bill. And it can be quite a sticker shock.
So cars, I can see how that happens because you have to register. But again, you're buying the Rolex watch. I know, like Jen has 6 and you have 2. I know everybody has Rolexes, right? You know, and you're spending $10,000 on a watch. Nobody's going to know.
Well, it depends. A lot of times those retailers do report to the state and on different products. I mean, if it's, say you bought it at you're on vacation in Europe, you buy it, you're bringing it back, you put it on that customs declaration form, that eventually finds its way to the state.
Now, does that apply to businesses in this respect? So I have a business and I have a clothing store, and I'm buying $10,000 worth of clothing from another store. I don't have to worry about that because I know I have an exemption on sales tax, but I also would have the exemption on use tax. Correct?
Correct, because you're bringing it into resale essentially. You're buying it wholesale to then resell. So then when you sell it to an individual who comes into your store, you're collecting the sales tax.
What about, do I have to make any reports to the government to say, hey, listen, Jen is living in Utah, and boy, you're doing a lot of stuff today, Jen.
A lot happening over here. Rolex watches that I didn't know about, Utah.
Yeah.
So you live in Utah, right?
Sure, yeah.
And she's buying something from a store in California, right? And let's say Utah has a 5% sales tax, right? So she would have to pay a 5% use tax. Is there a dollar limitation?
Well, she wouldn't have to pay a California tax in that case, I believe. The question would be, does Utah have a use tax requirement? So if you're not collecting that 5%, say, that Utah would charge a sales tax, the question would be, is Utah trying to track that down, and do they have a use tax? I don't know what their laws would
But
be.
the California store doesn't have a requirement to do that. So if California is doing business and selling retail to out of state, they don't have an obligation, or do they have an obligation to notify the Board of Equalization? Since you're
No, well, it wouldn't be the Board of Equalization because it would be the other state's obligation to collect it or to figure it out. So it depends on what their laws are. But I can tell you, California will look for any way to try to collect their piece of silver. So, and the rules can be very complicated. And for, a business owner, you get into, if you're opening a clothing store, you're in it because you're interested in fashion, you want to serve the public. You didn't get into it to become an accountant and a tax collector for the state, but essentially that's how it works. Food's taxable, cold food isn't. Well, it's a cold salad. Well, but you had to heat the chicken to cook it.
wow.
And, and that's one of those things. So as a business owner, if you get something and it becomes misclassified, it snowballs because you're selling a lot of that stuff. And so we would always try to work with folks early on. We do a lot of outreach to say, hey, we'll set up one-on-one meetings with your business to go through, what your business model is and let you know what the requirements are, because you hate to see people get.
That's a really interesting subject, but I'm an accountant. I have a tax background, and you do too. But I think the audience probably just wants to move on a little bit because they're like, "Okay, I got it. Let's go." Next question we have. So you are you in charge of the economic development for Antelope Valley? What is your position?
I'm the executive director, so it's a not-for-profit.
Another E.
Yes. And it's so we have a board of directors that's made up of our membership, which includes our major cities, major employers, really anyone who wants to join can be a member of AV Edge, and then from there we elect a board of directors where we try to get a broad cross-section of the economy, different types of businesses, public and private sector, from our major corporations like our aerospace contractors up there. We have Lockheed Martin represented on our board, down to individual small businesses.
And what is obviously the goal is to create jobs, but what exactly is an economic development department for people that don't know what that means?
So the economic, essentially, we are marketing the area for economic activity. and from the local government's perspective, anything that brings in jobs, businesses, sales tax, from then they look at it on that dollars and cents side, but it's also a big environmental issue. We have 500,000 people roughly in the Antelope Valley, and over 100,000 drive away every day to go to work, and clogging up that 14 freeway. And I know a lot of your listeners are probably folks on that if they're heading down to LA, they see that coming down the 14. So getting people to where they can live closer to where they work, and vice versa, is longer now for many families. So they say, from a local government side, economics about that dollars and cents. But for individuals, it's that quality of life, more time with their family and less time on the road.
Well, I want to come back to that after a break, but I want to go a little bit more into this economic development, because where I've seen it is companies say, "Hey, listen, I'm Boeing, I'm whatever company, and I want to locate myself in your area, and I'm going to create jobs." And usually I see, okay, there's an exchange. You know what? We really can bring this employer in. We can get 10,000 more jobs. That'd be really good for our economics endeavors, right? So we're going to offer them, tax breaks. So how does that part work?
So that's interesting. It depends on the area. And for instance, we used to have in California enterprise zones, which provided tax
more
breaks.
ease. Go
Yes, tax breaks to come into areas that were considered more economically in need. Those went away. We now have opportunity zones, which offer specific tax breaks on a geographic basis. But I think, like when you're saying, you could see, a big employer potentially
Toyota.
coming in, and they'll say, okay, well, normally you come in, you're going to build a building. There's going to be these permit fees. There's going to be these other requirements to improve the infrastructure around, and so. But those are things you can negotiate. Sometimes the employer says, well, look, we've got a budget for, this side of it, say the electrical infrastructure investment, but, the transportation side of it, we're a little off. And so you can work and massage with that, and cities and counties do those specific negotiations with potential employers. But yeah, it can be based on a trade-off of what is the economic benefit going to be to the community. But I'll tell you one good thing that's happening.
We're going to just hold it there. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Like no other station in the world! We are like no other station in the world. Have you ever experienced something like that? All right. Alex said, Peter, I don't know why I'm on the show. I'm just sitting here in the background. I'm falling asleep. What can I do? Alex, you're on.
Well, yeah, thanks, Peter. I was falling asleep there listening to Drew talk. No, I'm kidding. Thank you, Drew. Never fall asleep when you're talking. But I did have a bunch of questions, and I was just waiting for my turn when Peter would, quiet down for more than 10 seconds. But and honestly, so Drew, you talked a lot about Lockheed, Boeing, some of the bigger companies taking advantage of this economic development programs. But let's talk about our audience a little bit. So a lot of our audience are small, medium-sized companies, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of companies that may want to relocate to your area. Is this something they can take advantage of, and what should they do to take advantage of it? Does it make sense for them?
Absolutely. The benefits in an opportunity zone are open to any business coming in. A lot of them, I go through kind of some of the depreciation deductions are probably the most significant one. You can generally deduct up to equal to about 100% or more of the investor cash investment within 5 years of the building being placed into service. So on those new developments, those new constructions, there's significant benefits. And then differences in depreciation, recapture, and losses, and also deferral of capital gains. So all of those are open. I mean, there are things, and the great thing is the city economic development departments in our areas in Palmdale and Lancaster have staff on hand that can help show you how to take advantage and where to apply and get those benefits.
And do you work together with them? So if someone had to navigate this pathway to do it, would they contact you? How would they go about navigating it if they want to do that?
Yeah, we are kind of your first step in that process. You come to us, we'll find out where the project's located. If there's an opportunity zone if you're coming in and you're saying, hey, I want to find a property in an opportunity zone, we can help you find that, and then we can be your connector, whether it's to the city or the county economic development offices, whether it's to local service providers, brokers in construction. We say we're kind of your matchmaker. You come to us and we'll make you a match.
That's great. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask this as well. When you're talking about opportunity zones, you mentioned that term before. I know a little bit about it, but just assume I'm Peter and I have no idea what I'm talking about on it.
Ooh,
And
stab me in the heart.
No, I had to do it. But let's just assume we have no idea what those are. What are opportunity zones? How do you see those? And why would someone want to locate there rather than somewhere that's not an opportunity zone? And would they instantly see benefit, or is there a reason that opportunity zones are put in place because it's a longer term benefit than a shorter term?
Well, there's definitely longer term benefit. There's the opportunity zones are set up in areas that have been determined to be in economic need. Socioeconomic factors, income, underserved communities, all those things that the state looks at in determining these. And then long term, because again, I would say the most significant benefits are with new construction. So coming in and building that building, it's those depreciation deductions, it's the deferred capital gains. So you're looking at over the course of 5 to 10 years, continuing to get these benefits.
And so would you see someone looking at that and saying, well, there's an opportunity for new construction or refurbishment? Would you say they would have better benefits in new construction, or is it equally as good if they're reestablishing the area, renovating it, making it new, better, something that fits more of the model?
I know that, like, on the specifics, it's one of those, if you leave one wall up, it affects depending on how much of the original building is still there. There's a formula on how the benefit would wind up working, but they do there are benefits regardless. But if you're on an open plot and building from scratch, that's where you would see the most benefit.
Makes perfect sense. Now, of course, the pieces that Peter knows that I know nothing about are the tax side of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not gonna go in there, but I do want to ask one simple question on that. When we're talking about the taxing over time, are there breaks that people can get right away that they can defer this or reduce it for a period of time until their businesses get up and going? How does that usually work?
In terms of so for like the deferral of capital gains,
yes.
And it does include 1031 gains, so generated from the initial sale, can be deferred until the end of 2027, and that covers sale of the business, stock sales, and any other real estate sales.
Wow. So there definitely are some benefits to looking into this. There's no doubt about it. And I think it would be kind of crazy for anyone who's considering this not to at least give you a call and see what you guys can do for them. Because it seems like anybody considering locating to this area, or they actually should be considering locating to this area, would make a lot of sense to contact you right away and see if there's anything they can do. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. We are open 5 days a week. 9 to 5, and you can usually reach me outside that on my email. I'd say I love working not just in this kind of field, but in this specific area. Not only is my home, but all of North LA County, and including Santa Clarita, while we don't cover here, just has incredible opportunities. And California, often, as we kind of were joking earlier, does have a reputation for being a little bit difficult to do business in. But the size of California, and having LA. If I always say to folks, we're not going to be right for everybody, but if your business really needs to be somewhere in the LA region, North LA County is the place to be, because you do have business friendly local local government, and folks that want to help people succeed and see business and jobs as a good thing.
We're going to be taking a quick break for our sponsor. You're listening to KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM, the Ask Brien Show, now our sponsor.
And we want to say thank you to LegalSteps.com. It's spelled LegalStepz.com. LegalSteps.com is a great way to, I kind of like to say it's intro to business, like a 101. If you're looking to start your own business, it can be kind of scary. Where do you even begin? You certainly just don't want to start researching online randomly and take the first bit of information that you come across. With LegalSteps.com, you have experts that have over 30 years experience. So you know that you're in good hands. You do not have to worry about getting information that is incorrect, maybe sending you down a rabbit hole that you don't need to be going into. So if you're really kind of looking at this like, okay, how do I get started? Where do I begin? LegalSteps.com can do that for you. The courses are affordable. They're under $150 each. So you're not going to break the bank when you're trying to do this. And what I like about it as well is that those experts that I mentioned, if you're stuck, if you feel like I'm really lost here and this is not making any sense to me, they'll just go ahead and do it for you. They'll hold your hand through the entire process. I also love that you can see on screen. That was really big for me. I kind of learned visually. So when you're in the middle of the course, obviously you can see your own screen and you can print out a workbook and take notes and scribble and highlight and do all of those things. But you can also see what your expert is looking at. So you know for a fact that you are filling out the form, if you will, the right way. You're answering the questions properly because you can see what they're doing, and it could not be any easier. It took me just under 2 hours to take the S Corporation course. They also offer a course how to form an LLC and how to register a trademark. In addition to these great online courses, by the way, obviously you can work at your own pace. You're not beholden to somebody else's schedule. You've got kids and dogs and spouses and another job, and you're just trying to run your household. So you're on your own schedule. You can pause, rewind, work at your own pace. It's a beautiful course. Check it out. Go to LegalSteps.com, LegalStepz.com.
Wow, that sounds pretty exciting, Jen.
I liked it. It was a lot of fun.
Woohoo.
I really did. It was very easy to follow along, and I felt like a true expert at the end of it.
It's like those commercials where the 2-year-old child takes apart a bed and puts it back together again.
Yeah.
Anyone can do it.
Anyone can do it. They make it so easy. Yes.
Well, thanks again.
You bet.
And thank you, Legal Steps. All right, so we're back to our show. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHS 1220, 98.1 FM. Alex, did you want to continue? Or?
No, I think Drew answered most of my great questions. So thank you very much, Drew.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I want to go a little bit more about like specific case situations. All right. Obviously, there's confidentiality involved, but I mean, so give us an example of, as Alex was going through that, some smaller companies, less than 50 people, right, that have actually been able to go through the economic development department in the Antelope Valley and actually get these benefits. Do you have any ideas about those?
I don't know that I can talk specific. I can give you a couple examples without naming names. So
that's fine.
For instance,
except for Alex Grossman, everybody wants to know it's Alex Grossman. All right, all right.
So we had a small electrical company come to us. Definitely, yeah, less than 50 employees, but regional, and was having some issues with the rehab on their building. We were able to connect them up with the right folks at the city, not only on the benefit side of it, but also just the general, the building inspector side. For instance, they had some questions. Sometimes like I said, I worked many years in government. Sometimes government folks don't necessarily speak the same language that plain speaking folks do, and so that's another one of the
Wow.
services that we do at times is just kind of help cut through red tape and say, okay, well let's get to the meat and potatoes. What's the actual need that needs to be done here to get the ball rolling? One of the things we did that kind of came out of situations like that, we're actually now hosting a monthly meeting with all of the different permitting agencies in our area, water districts, the county planning, the city planners, and bringing them with the developers and local engineering firms to just talk through systemic issues that can hold up projects and how to improve communication between the public side and the private side. And that's proving to be very helpful just in the last few months since we started in clearing roadblocks.
Well, obviously, red tape is a big concept when you're dealing with the government, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how do people find out about all the different possibilities? I mean, I guess they can call you, but I mean, do you have a website or something that you go to?
We do. Thank you. It's www.avedgeca.org. That's AVEDGECA.org. It's again Antelope Valley Economic Development and Growth Enterprise, and we have several resources online, and we are continuing to improve our web offerings. And I can say right now we're working on some really great improvements. We have property listings and highlights on there right now, but we're going to be improving that functionality over the next couple of months, and to include links and connection to our city economic development departments, other county agencies that can assist, and we're happy to walk people through that.
Now, is the economic only available for people that are buying a building or buying, a business where there's actual land involved, et cetera, or is this applied to anyone? I mean, like, what if I have a carpet store and I got 12 people working for me and I'm trying to sell carpeting? I mean, how can the economic development department help an organization like that?
Well, that's a great question. So we, as I said earlier, when we say we look at ourselves as kind of the matchmaker. So somebody like that comes with a carpet store. They say, "Hey, I'm looking for available space with X number of square feet, this far from the freeway." We can help identify those properties. It's because a lot of times those commercial or industrial properties work a little bit different than residential, where you could go on a Zillow or a Realtor.com and kind of see everything out there. With those, sometimes the individual brokers have them listed on theirs, and in order to see everything that's out there, you got to go through each of those individual commercial or industrial brokers. So we can help bring all that together for folks so that are looking to lease rather than buy as well.
We only have 30 seconds, so I just want people to understand, is this a governmental agency or not?
We are a private, not-for-profit 501c6. We receive a mix of public and private sector funding. We get funding from City of Lancaster, City of Palmdale, County of Los Angeles, but then also our private sector members, those major employers, utilities, groups that have a membership of $5,000 for large companies on down to $500 for just an individual person who wants to join and be part of it.
Wow, that's great information. We're going to take a break. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Welcome back. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Well, we're here with Drew Mercy from the Economic Development Department of Antelope Valley. Alex, before we get into your question, we just want to ask Drew, so if people want to reach out to you, I mean, obviously you have the website, but how can people connect with you and or the Economic Development Department?
So we are, of course, on social media, Facebook at AVEdgeCA, on Instagram at AVEdgeCA_. And you can reach us. Our office phone number is 661-441-2957. 441-2957, and again, our website is AVEdgeCA.org.
And people would go to you for any questions or or
Yeah.
specific areas?
Any question related to business, and whether it's business attraction, business retention. So we work, for instance, with our utility companies on different programs. They can set up an existing business owner with one of their staff that can look through, their system with Edison or the gas company, and make sure that they're getting all the either credits or programs that are available to support existing businesses as well.
Wow, that sounds great. And just to let everybody know, the Ask Brien Radio Show is also a podcast. It's available on Spotify, Apple, and everywhere else that you can listen to a podcast. The show will be available in approximately 2 weeks. If you missed anything during the show that you want to go back and listen to, the podcast is a great way to do it. It doesn't have commercials, and it's available, whatever. And we'll ask you, if you want to just share it with your members or share it on your website, when it comes out. That way everybody else can listen to not only the information that you've been telling us here, but another way to learn about what the Economic Development Department does.
I would love to do that.
So that's great. Now, Alex, you had one more question. You said, Peter, I got to ask this question. I'm going to have a heart attack. Go ahead.
There we go. Yeah, Drew, one more question for you, and thanks for all the great information. But I'm sure you have a profile, or your department has a profile on what types of businesses you're really looking for in your growth in Antelope Valley. I mean, if we're looking at business growth, what types of businesses are really exciting for you today?
So we look at what our natural advantages up there is that we have a lot of land, and it's much more affordable than most of California. And so we look at a lot of things. People think of the Antelope Valley, they often think of aerospace and our legacy there. That's still a big driver, but we have a very diversified economy. Logistics is another one where we broke ground recently, and the building is going up super fast for a new 1 million square foot Trader Joe's distribution center. Both cities have about 13 million square feet of industrial coming online.
Wow.
And so any kind of industrial manufacturing we're very interested in. As I said, logistics, also film. One of the great things, they say we're in the golden age of another golden age of television, and with all these streaming services, well, they're running out of film studio space, soundstage space in LA. I know Santa Clarita has done incredibly well with that. We're also open. We're looking for investors to build sound stages as well, and increase our film presence.
Well,
sounds fantastic. Exciting for a lot of people.
Oh, and energy. We have some of the
Energy.
biggest. We have more sunny days than just about anywhere in the country. So solar generation has become very big in our area, and we're actually investing or bringing in hydrogen fuel investors. So as the hydrogen fueled cars are becoming a good viable alternative for clean energy vehicles, trains, and that kind of thing. We're looking to become producers of hydrogen fuel as well.
well,
Sounds like a really incredibly bright future for the Antelope Valley. I'm not sure for antelopes, but I'm sure for the valley. So sounds really great.
well, there probably were a lot of antelopes here, and that's why they named it the Antelope Valley. We've got about,
I've never seen an antelope in Antelope Valley, to be perfectly honest with you.
Sadly,
Maybe
it's
there
been
are.
a while.
well, that was because of all the economic development that's been going on. There's nothing left. All right, we got about 40 seconds left, so we really don't have a lot of time left. But if somebody, is there a place besides your website where people can learn about all the different tax savings that they can get by doing a deal with the Antelope Valley?
I would say, if you wanted to drill deep, if you had a specific location.
Not because you're into energy, but go ahead.
Yeah, but the city of Lancaster, city of Palmdale, directly both have some. And when you mentioned energy, the city of Lancaster leads a community choice aggregate, which allows everyone, residents, businesses, to save a little bit on their power bill as well.
Well, thanks a lot. We really appreciate having you. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show on KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM with my guest, Drew Mercy, my co-host, Alex Roseman. Over and out.